I think we are unmuted. Now we're live. Now we are showing up. I apologize for that, for the mix-up. So here's what I do. I just want to get into, and I'll talk about the books that I read in 2020, which was quite a year for all of us. And let me go ahead and share my screen. 1 second. Computer's a little slow when it's doing a live stream, but that's okay. That is okay. So we're going to share screen. Okay, we're going to share screen. And this is the screen we're going to share. So we're just going to do a review. I read 121 books in 2020, nonfiction books. And I want to I want to share with you the value of reading. And then you can get an understanding of why it's important to read and what it can do in radically changing your life. Please ask your questions on the broadcast if you have any questions on how to be focused in reading. There's a lot of things that I've heard where people say, I just don't have time, or I can't find time, when we know none of that exists. So let me just, so here's some of the quick stats, right? 121 books read in 2020. 40 books were read in the month of December. This is the first year that I did grades for the books that I read. And I will have an article posted on LinkedIn tomorrow for you to see the entire list in case you want to read some of them. I had 23 books were graded A, 43 were graded B, 44 were graded C, and 6 were D, and 5 were F. And how I do these grades is the value of my time. So time, believe it or not, Pradeep told me this, time is not the most precious commodity that a lot of us think it is. It's what we do in that time. So when you decide that you're going to be a reader, and you decide that you're going to start to invest in yourself to get that strong return on investment, you're going to have to give up some things. You may have to give up live sports. You may have to give up Netflix shows, Tiger King. You may have to give up a lot. So I wanted to grade. If I'm going to give up my time reading a book, then I want to determine what type of grade I'm giving it. And 5 were F. In other words, it was a complete waste of time. I'm not going to talk about those books. I don't want to throw any authors under the bus or whatnot. If you look at my list on the article I write tomorrow, then you can see who those books are. I'm not going to further talk on that. Here are the most read authors. So I read a lot more religious books this in 2020 with the kind of year that we had. Yes, right. And so C.S. Lewis is at the top. 6 books by C.S. Lewis. He writes shorter books. It doesn't mean that they are easy to comprehend. I'll just put it that way. He was an atheist that found God through his friend Tolkien, J.R. Tolkien. And so really heavy stuff, man. Really heavy stuff. Zig Ziglar is one of my favorites, along with Brian Tracy. Dale Carnegie, 3 books. Last year, 9 or 11 books I read of John C. Maxwell, and for this year it was 3. Malcolm Gladwell, John Wooden, and Gary Chapman rounds out the list. I know y'all can read, but I'm going to read it out loud anyway. Most read topics. So personal development, professional development, is important to me, just by the way I was raised and the way I was treated, and a lot of the things that I had to endure with bullies and with being overlooked, whatnot. I want to improve myself. And again, if you have any questions or feedback, please put them in the post for Facebook or LinkedIn. 23 sales books. I'm more of an audience engagement guy than a sales guru, although people will kind of put me in the sales guru bucket. I am more of an audience engagement person, and all that means is that when you are looking to move an audience, how you persuade them and inspire them, so in some cases motivate them to move from A to B. So it doesn't always apply to sales. It can apply to internal communications and many other things. 19 religious books, 10 on parenting. I believe it's important to improve your parenting. 7 on leadership, and 5 film books. My passion is film. And then professional development, it's more around business. And then 4 books on marriage. And let's get into the top 5. So I do this every year, and I go over the top 5. And a lot of times, this is where a lot of the questions come up. But Troy, what book do you recommend? And so for my micro podcast and what I do with my micro podcast, when I do this at the beginning of the year, these are the most listened to, which is why I thought about doing a live stream. So as the questions come up, again, if you're watching live, put 1 and then the location you're at. And then if you have any questions, please ask the questions. So I go from 5 to 1. And number 5 book that I read in 2020 is The Happiness Advantage: How a Positive Brain Fuels Success in Work and Life. It was written by Sean Aker, and really what it talks about, what jumped out at me, is the fact that we strive for success to achieve happiness, and Sean points out that it's the opposite. We're doing it the wrong way. That in order to achieve success, you need to be happy, right? The happiness advantage. When you're happy, success comes. Happiness does not come with success. And happiness is something that's intentional. You don't wake up happy, right? You have to be intentional on being happy. And so really good book. Any of these top 5, well, any of the A's, I would encourage you to invest your time into reading. I would also encourage you to, we'll talk about it a little later, about setting up goals and so forth. The number 4th book in the books read in 2020, as far as the number 4 rated, is The Book You Wish Your Parents Had Read. It's a parenting book I've read. And parenting books, there was The 5 Love Languages for Teenagers was my number 1 parenting book until I read this one. And what I liked about this one is it didn't follow the same blueprint that a lot of other parenting books will. In other words, a lot of parenting books I read, they'll be really absolute on one side or the other, either strict discipline, and this is why, or strict let it loose, let them do what they do, and just varying opinions. What I liked about this book is it focused on you, the parent. Check yourself before you wreck yourself type of thing, right? Where you can only control what you control, and when it comes to parenting, work on yourself, and it will result in a greater level of parenting. Stop trying to change your children. Change yourself. And it was an anti-parent. And it was really, really cool. One of the biggest things I got out of it was, when you're feeling the way you feel, ask yourself, why are you feeling that way? So when I ask my children to do the dishes and they don't do it, why is that a trigger for me? Why do I get so upset when they disobey that one request? So really good book, really good book. If you're a parent, if you're going to be a parent, thinking about being a parent, really good book. Read it when your kids are younger than mine are, This one, Sharon Lanier. So I will tell you that I read 40 books. What's up, Mr. Ken? I read 40 books in the month of December. And before you think that I'm some hero, it's because I was very, very angry. I did not get accepted at a position for work that would have really helped out our situation. I'm still unemployed. It would have really helped our situation. And I'm a little petty. I wanted to show them, what they missed. And so I read 40 books. Now to read 40, it started out with reading a book a day. And as I was trending reading a book a day, I was like, I'm going to actually read more than 31 in the month of December. And so I started being strategic on what type of books by page count. So this one, I went to the library website and did a search, and this one was 144 pages. I had no idea this would rock my world. rock my world. So Jaron Lanier is from Silicon Valley. He worked with big tech as they were bringing out their social media, and some of the things that he quotes uh, behind closed doors of the Facebook executives will send shivers down your spine. It is just, it's crazy what social media is doing to Gen Z. And I'm very passionate. All my kids are Gen Z. I speak life into Gen Z, and that's an important part of Generation Z. The oldest of Generation Z, just so you have context, is 24. So the oldest Gen Zers are 24. Anyway, so you see the end of a cat on this book, and it starts out by saying, "I want you to be a cat." Right? I want you to be a cat, not a dog. And as you're reading it, all you dog people are offended right now. As you're reading it, he describes it as a dog can be trained, and you throw your ball, and your poodle or your doggy will go fetch for you, right? And then the dog brings the ball back, drops it to you, and then you as the owner, you throw the ball again. Try doing that with a cat. The cat will be looking at you like, "What? Fool, I ain't gonna get that ball. You get it yourself." Right? Cats are chill that way. And his point is that social media companies and social media platforms, they are training you to be dogs. In other words, whatever they put on there, go fetch. Fido. So if you want to be a dog, then you keep consuming the what the content that's putting on there. And listen, this book will rock your world. Go find it and read it and understand what they are doing to manipulate you for advertisers. In fact, the guy said, "I'm not going to go back on social media as a consumer of social media until they charge me." Until they charge me. And they don't do what they're doing with my data today. And so really, really good book. There are two types of people on social. There are consumers and producers. I'm a producer on social. Kevin, who's watching, is a producer on social. There are a lot of people that all they do is consume content. So read this book. Very, very compelling arguments. And just so you know, Mr. Lanier and I probably disagree on everything politically. Everything. And I'm highly recommending this book. The second best book that I read in 2020. Again, if you have any questions on reading, the purpose of this broadcast is to share and encourage and inspire you to pick up a nonfiction book to read it. If you're not reading at least 12 nonfiction books a year, check yourself before you wreck yourself. I make mentions of that song all the time because it's so cool. It's such a cool song, and it really is true. I said at the beginning of this broadcast, reading is the absolute most inexpensive way to get a return on your investment. You will improve your life by reading. And the second book that I read, The Mr. Rogers Effect, 7 Secrets to Bringing Out the Best in Yourself by Dr. Anita Knight Kunle, I believe it's pronounced. Really, really phenomenal book. And just a reminder of who we had as an example. I wrote a book, released it last year called You Got It, Now Go Get It, and referenced talking to students in school districts over 50 times, and then reference the Clark County School District 14 times. Someone read it and they go, "Oh, you could be the Mr. Rogers of the Gen Zers." And what an accomplishment that would be, right? Because this guy is an example. There was racial injustice back then. There's racial injustice now. And just loving on your neighbor, right? Just loving on your neighbor is such a phenomenal book. It's number 2. Now, number 1 is a religious book. I give you a 3. Now, nothing I do in these Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube is religious in nature. Now, I'm religious in nature, so it comes out, and I don't apologize for it. It is what it is. So if you're offended by it, stop being offended by it, because I can't control who's offended at whatever time they're offended. That's on you. But the what I like about this book is it talks about, a lot of people think the devil the devil is powerful. The devil is not powerful without our cooperation. And a lot of my audience, they're of the religious, they're religious audience. And so if you think about, Jesus prayed a lot, and Jesus healed a lot. Jesus never prayed for someone to be healed. Boom, right? Is that like a mind-blowing statement to make? Jesus prayed a lot. Jesus healed a lot. Jesus never prayed for someone to be healed. He didn't say, God, please heal this person. If you have a verse you want to put in here, great. I don't believe he did. In fact, I'm fairly certain that he did not, because he had the authority to heal, right? He had the authority to perform miracles. There's no reason. Be like you managing, let's say you're the boss, right? You're the CEO, and you've got your director. Imagine your director calling you saying, hey, CEO, I just, could you do this for me? My manager's not following my instruction. Could you do that for me? As CEO, you'd be like, hey, man, I trained you, and I've given you the authority to manage that situation. You go get it. You got it. Now go get it. Right? Same thing spiritually. The devil does not have the power you think he does unless you cooperate with him. Jesus doesn't have the power that you think he does unless you cooperate with him. So this idea that we have the authority to move mountains, we have the authority to impact the lives of others in a positive light. Fantastic book. It is the '1 book that I have ever read, and I have read 280 since 2018, NonFiction's book. So now I want to transition into, and you'll see kind of the icon 10 tips to reading 20 books in a month. You can kind of ignore that. I want to give you 10 tips on just starting to read, right? And starting to consider reading. And you say, Troy, I want to take this step, and I want to be a better reader. I want to improve my life situation. If you don't want to improve your life situation, then go ahead and keep watching Netflix all day. That's fine. The one thing you want to do is you want to talk about it. You want to share to others that you're going to start reading. Hey, I have a goal of reading 12 books. I'm going to read 12 books this year. Fantastic. Tell people about it. Post on LinkedIn. Post on Facebook. I'm going to read 12 books this year, because you're announcing it and you're making yourself accountable. Now, number 9 of tips into becoming a better reader is take handwritten notes. And when I read, I have ADHD. I have dyslexia. So when people say, I'm not as smart as you, or I'm not as good as you, I literally want to just laugh out loud at how ludicrous that sounds, because I know where I came from. And reading is a skill, so you get better at it. Saturday, I started a book, a 234-page book by Daniel Pink. 234 pages. I started at 352, and I ended at 515. 234 pages. So, people hear that and they go, wow, that's amazing. I can never do that. Well, I couldn't have done that years ago either. It's kind of like, not exactly like, kind of like the 4-minute mile. If people that didn't think they could accomplish a 4-minute mile, they never accomplished a 4-minute mile. It's the same thing with reading. If you don't think you can read, and you never do, and you never read, then you're self-fulfilling your prophecy. So when you read, take handwritten note. And the reason handwritten instead of typing is because the kinetic energy, there's something about movement that triggers the brain to retain that information. So a lot of people, one guy on the airplane was kind of laughing at me because he goes, dude, you've got a book, a physical book, and you've got your iPad, and you're writing on your iPad, because I have an Apple Pencil, and yet you're reading a physical book. Normally people are reading an ebook and they're writing in their journal. Well, I like to write on my iPad because it's there, and anything that jumps out at me, I will write. I will write it out, and it retains that information. And so a lot of books you'll see tomorrow when the article is published, my list of 121 books, you'll see that I wrote, there's a column in the spreadsheet that reveals how many handwritten notes, pages of notes that I wrote, and it just changed my reading capacity and capability. So if you're struggling with reading, Troy, I've tried to read a book a year. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm not mocking. It's just funny. Try it taking handwritten notes. Take handwritten notes on that. And if you have any questions or disagreements, bring it. Love it. Love it. Would love to talk about it. So read stimulated. Now, I don't want to get controversial here. I will tell you that I use performance enhancing drugs. Yes, I do. Legally when reading. I caffeinate myself. So Wednesday and Saturday, I have a routine where I read for an hour and a half to 2 hours, smoking a cigar, drinking a frappuccino, and I'm medicated, so I have ADHD, so I've been prescribed Ritalin. That combination of those three, it just the amount of information and how fast I can read, it works for me. I'm not going to encourage you to do the exact same thing I do in that retrospect. For you, it might be something else that will stimulate your mind legally, that will stimulate your mind to get you focused on what you're doing. There, you see the dude up there with the cold shower. Cold are a trigger. If you take a cold shower, you're going to ignite a level of focus in your life. So read stimulated. Find out what that is. And then these are, again, I'm going through just some 10 tips revealed a few months back. I'm just rehashing it on improving your reading. Read alert. So there are two thoughts on this. I cannot read at night. I just can't. My brain is tapped out. I usually will watch a show. I will not read at night. Now, a lot of people stand by reading at night because when you go to sleep, your mind processes what you read. Okay, sounds great in theory. I guess my mind processes Frasier, the sitcom Frasier. So read alert. For me, it's the beginning of the day or the end of the day. If you put reading in and you're fatigued, you're not going to enjoy it at all. So make sure to read alert. And another tip is read 4 or 5 shorter books. Now, this is something more around the idea of reading 20 books in a month. I'm always going to be for this here tip that I'm going to show you. Read books less than 250 pages. And I kind of even, if it's over 220, I'm kind of like, it's got to be a really good book. Right? It's got to be a really good book. Because a 400-page book, a 500-page book may have greater clout. It has one theme. There are not multiple themes in one book. And so if you read a book that has 200 pages in it, nonfiction book, 200 pages in it, you're getting 2 books for the price of reading one 400-page book. And what you're doing is you're getting more information and you're getting 2 topics or themes as opposed to 1. So look for nonfiction books. Unmute it. Oh, Blue Yeti. Blue Yeti. And it looks like we're back on. So I apologize for that. So read books less than that number of pages. Read nonfiction related to your experience or something new you want to try, or self-help, self-improvement. This is important because when you're taking the investment and the time needed to read a book, I apologize for the trouble we're having with this mic. Let me just double check to make sure that it's working. It is not working, so hold on. Great, Mike, and very, very poor connectivity. You want to read nonfiction that's going to give back to you, and it's really going to give you an edge as you read. The first thing you're going to discover when you start reading is how many others don't read. Now, I will caution you, there are situations you're going to be smarter than your boss if they're not reading. So you need to understand that you are going to be smarter than your boss if you start reading. So uh, just be aware of that, and know that your personal professional development journey is awesome. It can be intimidating for someone like your boss who thinks they know it all, and really they may not, because they are no longer reading. Third tip is commit to reading between 1 to 2 hours a day. So here's the thing, man. I tell everyone, in fact, when I managed a sales team, I told them they had an hour a day on the clock, an hour a day to do whatever they wanted that would benefit and improve their ability to sell. If they wanted to watch the first half of Boiler Room on one day and then watch the second half of Boiler Room on another day, or if they wanted to go mosey on over to a coffee shop with their sales book and then drink a cup of coffee and read, I would always encourage that, right? Because sometimes you don't want to invest time outside of work. So commit to reading between 1 to 2 hours a day. The unemployment number is very high again, and you got to think about the time that you have. Instead of watching all the Netflix shows, for example, I got laid off on April 9th because of COVID. Instead of watching Tiger King, I wrote this book right here. You got it. Now go get it. And it's a big book. And so do something productive once you have the time, and one of them is reading. And if you read as many books as I have, you'll be able to write your own book, man. And I'm telling you, there's just, anyway, you got to believe you can. Believe you can read. Again, the slide is related to reading 20 books in a month. Just believe that you can read. Just believe that. Believe you can read. And then the number one tip is accept that it's going to be hard. When you accept that it's going to be hard, it becomes easier. When you accept the fact that you're going to give up live sports, you're going to give up Netflix, you're going to give up these other things because you want to invest in who you are more than being entertained, it will change your life. Some of you may think, well, Troy, you're still unemployed. Has it really changed your life? Let me just stop sharing here. And I will unequivocally say it absolutely has changed my life. It absolutely has changed my life. I am not an author, and I would have never been an author if it wasn't for reading. So there are no questions, and that is all I wanted to share, is that, hey, when you hear about someone like me that has read 40 books in a month, and you say to yourself, I could never do that, that's not true. You can do it if you want to. You can do it, and it will change your life. You'll become a better person for it. So I just want to encourage you. I hope you enjoyed this particular broadcast. I'm going to let you get back to your day. You guys have a wonderful, tremendous day. If you haven't heard it today, let me be the first to say that you are awesome.